because they kept bringing opium in their country. So they knew the effect that was going to have. And another thing they did is they enslaved their own people. Did you know that the people that's known as the Spartans, like from the people from the movie 300, like the people that we commonly call the Spartans, do you know that they was really invaders? The people who's really from that place, the people that we know as the Spartans came there and enslaved them. And that's why they had all that time to focus on military. See, if you got people that's hunters and gatherers, people that's farmers, that take up a lot of time. If you don't really got time, like after you done did some 17th century farm work, you ain't about to go out on maneuvers, son. You ain't about to do all these push-ups, man, and be running 20 miles. See, having a dedicated army, having enough, a country having enough wealth to have a dedicated army, that's a whole thing. Having enough population to have some people that's able to, you could go do something else that's not necessarily securing food, clothing, and shelter. That's something about the richness of society, where some people could sit around and draw pictures and make sculptures all day. And the reason why they had that is because they had those people enslaved. Now, I'm not saying the story is told in reverse. I'm just telling you that the people that's known as the Spartans is really invaders. Oh, let me see something. I keep forgetting we on the. I had to pull up my screen. I'm hotel now. Hold on. Let us let us get hotel. Try to make this bigger so y'all can see this on the screen. Can y'all see that right there? It says Helot, a state-owned serf of the ancient Spartans. The ethnic origin of Helots is uncertain, but they were probably the original inhabitants of Laconia, the area around the Spartan capital, who were reduced to servility after the conquest of their land by the numerically fewer Dorians. After the Spartan conquest of Messenia in the 8th century BC, the Messenians were also reduced to the status of Helots. The Helots were, in a sense, state slaves bound to the soil and assigned to individual Spartans to till their holdings. Their masters could neither free them nor sell them, and the Helots had a limited right to accumulate property after paying to their masters a fixed proportion of the produce of the holding. Owing to their numerical inferiority, the Spartans were always preoccupied with the fear of a Helot revolt. The ephors, Spartan magistrates of each year, on entering office, declared war on the Helots so that they might be murdered at any time without violating religious scruples. It was the responsibility of the Spartan secret police, the Cryptia, to patrol the Laconian countryside and put to death any supposedly dangerous Helots. Spartan conservative foreign policy is often attributed to the fear of revolts by the Helots. During wartime, Helots attended their masters on campaign and served as light armed troops and sometimes also as rowers in the fleet. The Messenian Helots were lost to Sparta when the Epaminondas liberated Messenia circa 370, but the Helot system continued in Laconia until the 2nd century BC. You see that? Yeah, in 300 BC, that's a whole other time. This is telling you that this stuff happened in the 8th century BC. That's what I'm saying. Like you got to look at the history sometimes. You know what I'm saying? You can't just look at uh you can't just look at the what's happening right now without understanding, because see, when you say predicting history, this is what you're doing. You're looking at these situations like when as I was reading that, didn't that sound very familiar? Didn't that sound very familiar? Just in terms of, they say, there's certain dudes that's out in the countryside, certain slave patrol is already out there. The fear that they had, that I keep telling you, these people are definitely afraid of the masses. A lot of all that other stuff people be talking about, they doing this just because they white and they doing. No, that's not why they doing that. They're doing that out of fear. And how many, how many wise decisions do people make when fear is the motive? So they do a lot of dumb things. They make a lot of mistakes. The establishment is not as the establishment is not as perfect as what a lot of y'all perceive it to be. Every single plan, you know, it appears that you know, people expect for the color man to have this thing perfect. But you see how they control them with the laws. Okay, we're going to declare war on them every year, right? So through the laws, you see how they, manage to oppress. So that's what I'm saying. Like, we in the present time right now. But at whatever point were they talking about the American civilization, that's what it is. Just like you study Egypt, you study Rome, you study Greek. See, this is one of the things that colored people do. Like, see, even when you're dealing with this political kind of science, That's why you study the rise and fall of civilizations. See, like right now, when we say it's the peak, this is when this civilization peaked. At the time, the people who was living in that time, they didn't know that it was peaking then. So this is one of the reasons why they study that. So we can say, all right, we see what's going on. All right, these are the things that led to the downfall of that other civilization. This is how people is making decisions. People look at the flaws of other civilizations. And they say, okay, well, we're going to adjust our government. We're going to put a little clause in our constitution to stop that from happening. That's why I said a lot of times these things, when these events occur, it appears to me that the context that people look at everything is from the movies. Like you watch these movies with all these complex parts and all these different people and everything, and this is what how people start analyzing everything. You said this is why I also bring or have brought other histories that existed in our old history in the USA. Like when we speak on what we was doing post Civil War up to now. So that's when I look to who opposes them and how they lost their power. And so we have it much better because we can study all that and more and move different. Yeah. I mean, see, I don't watch movies at all, so I don't have that type of mind. You know what I'm saying? Like whoever was the actors that was at the protest, so the Battle of Capitol Hill. You know what I'm saying? I don't know who they are. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't watch movies. So this dude could be in a movie. Maybe that's where they recognize him, but I don't know who they are. The context that I look at these things is more so just from the history. And you'll see this same type of script playing out all over. That's not the only place. Because see how they enslaved those people for hundreds of years, invaded their land and enslaved them. So they talking about the 8th century BC. We talking about over 2,500 years they've been practicing this stuff. They got a building in London, right, in England called a tower. And in the tower, they have literally is filled with medieval torture devices. They go all those different uh stuff with screws and all type of stuff where they just do all type of stuff to you. See, they've been practicing hurting each other for centuries. See, that's one of the reasons how they knew exactly how much they could whip somebody and still have you ready to be in the field tomorrow. They already knew what you could take and what you couldn't take. Because they already practiced that on each other. 793rd, right? The Spanish Inquisition, they practiced that then too. So when you look at the signs of what's going on right now, you'll also see that the signs of how these places fall, right, is that they either make an enemy that they can't handle, and they get invaded and conquered themselves, or it falls apart from within. Like, you know something I heard this lady saying? This colored woman, she was talking about Rome. She was talking about Rome. And she was talking about how um the art of Rome reflected certain strengths and certain weaknesses, right? And she was talking about how when you look at Rome in the beginning, right, when Rome is on the rise, when they just coming up, right? And she was like, you look at all the paintings and the sculptures, they're big, muscular warrior type dudes, you know what I'm saying? Athletic builds, everything, you know what I'm saying? And she was like, by the end, you know, it's, little, dudes is like a wisp or something. Dudes is, they, they like, effeminate. Now, look at what you see in America. We went from uh, John Wayne and Clint Eastwood being in westerns to Brokeback Mountain. Did you see that dude? You know, I just read it. I read it in the news. I don't actually buy that magazine, but there's a dude who he was on the cover of the magazine not too long ago. It was a women's magazine, and he was wearing a dress. So not saying that that one thing is evidence that things is on the way down. But when you start looking at certain things, like when the value of the money starts dropping. See, when prices go up, there's two ways to look at that. One is that the goods is getting more expensive. But the other way to look at it is that your money is getting less valuable. Do I think the colored man in the USA is the same as the colored man in Europe? Same as their ideologies or different, or only the same on far as getting money and warrant? I mean, well, yeah, there's first of all, they never mixed as much as they did in America. Maybe certain people, uh, the French and the British interacted somewhat, but Irish people never was around Italian people. So just the point of coming to America and the kind of, mixture that occurred here between all the cultures that came here, you know, with the cultures that was already here included. This created, kind of new mentality. You know what I'm saying? Remember, Europe is, they was kind of, wall to wall over there. You know what I'm saying? When you get to America, you got that frontier out there. Everybody having guns. It ain't like that in Europe. But see, that goes way back to the fact that, like I said, the monarchs, did not want all these people to be armed. Why do I think they're able to retain their coaches over there while the USA, they all assimilate? Yeah. And that's why they politics is different too. That's why they politics is not the same because, first of all, a lot of them is much smaller places. They got a lot less people, and all of the people be the same people. Like if you go to Sweden, you know what I'm saying? Probably 90% of the people there is Swedish. It's not like in America where you got all of these different factions of people. So it's, you know, being able to appease all of them at the same time. Dartmouth said Method Man wore a dress. Method Man wore a dress? I wasn't aware of that. But it just goes to show you the same thing that I'm saying. Colored man has to be armed out here because he stole the land and too much land, but everyone not having the same origins. Um, yeah, one time, you know what I'm saying, in terms of when they was on the frontier and all of that, and they doing battle, uh, with the Indians and all of that. I, I could see that, but uh, you know, that's the just the culture of America. Like everybody's on their own. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a non-stop influx into America. That is 793rd to provide a source for Method Man wearing a dress. Yeah, I don't know. That's it. I never heard that one. I don't know. I just Googled it. Nothing came up with Method Man wearing no dress. It's pretty strong words. Nah, I didn't see any evidence of that. Where did he wear a dress at? Dartmouth. BCI. They never stopped warring. It's not just that they was warring in the 1800s or 1700s or 1900s. They never stopped. Yeah, that might be a Rick James moment. That might. Yeah, you're right. That conspiracy took over, right? Forget all these conspiracies. The Catholic nun habit is a dress. Well, the habit is actually what they wear on their head. But you're saying Method Man dressed as a nun? Uh-oh. So what you said here, VC, if they really start to go full Walking Dead, like power grid shut down, maybe. Mhm. Oh, I don't know about what people wearing dresses. I don't pay attention to people wearing dresses. Now, you can't exactly see the bottom of this in this picture here, but this does look like it could be a dress. So perhaps Dartmouth was correct. But nah, I told you I don't watch movies. I don't go to the movies, so I never actually saw this movie. Not all that much into pop culture. But uh, you can say this though. We don't have to go that far back to see that. This kind of effeminate stuff has had a very has had a very negative impact on our culture as black people. I think that wasn't something that I guess is how high, I don't know. But that's not something that's been a good thing for our culture, you understand what I'm saying? For the just the family life, the community life, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? So, it's fairly easy to see that these kind of things that's going on, this is just one thing. You understand what I'm saying? Now, how many different things do you see in America that's going wrong? Like I'll give you another one. You know another reason, another reason why Rome fell? Immigrants. And, shout out to the people if you got an immigrant background. You know what I'm saying? But a whole bunch of societies have failed to individuals that they brought into the country, you know what I'm saying? And eventually when it was enough for them, they challenged the masters. You said, what's going wrong? What's going wrong with what? With wearing a dress? Did I ask what's wrong in America? I mean, I named a couple of things that's going wrong. I wouldn't say things that's going wrong, but things that have historically led to the downfall of different empires, different countries. He says a whole lot more than black men wearing dresses. I mean, well, I'll tell you this much. It was a guy back in the days, a comedian named Flip Wilson. And he used to have a TV show, something like Living Color or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And he had this character on the show was a woman. He used to put a dress on, dress up as a woman and everything. But at that time, that was like a one or off kind of thing. Like I ain't gonna say he's the first one to ever do it, but it was yeah, Geraldine. You know what I'm saying? That was the character that Flip Wilson had. But when he was doing it, it was more of a novelty. It was like, he was the one like Richard Pryor wasn't doing it, Bill Cosby wasn't doing it. You know what I'm saying? Not I mean they may have done it once or twice, but that wasn't a regular act. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't, like just a Tyler Perry out there who's made, now that's another thing. That was like just one, character that he used to have a lot of characters. You know what I'm saying? There was nobody who was making that their entire their, that's their thing, like Tyler Perry. You know, one thing that's just, something where, the social roles that you got to play in certain, there's natural roles, and then there's roles that you can play in certain societies. See, like if you dealing with something where you got to survive, on your own, like I'm saying, you if you want some meat, you got to go out and hunt. See, you don't got time to be playing women's roles. And I ain't just talking about acting. I'm talking about your role, you know what I'm saying, in uh, you know, the family, your role in in the community, your role in the world, your role in the universe. You don't have time to be playing those other roles. You know what I'm saying? And it's not gonna be very conducive to your survival to be playing those roles. PCR said if they just was us, they would never lose power. My thing is, if they got all this loot and resources, why they keep running the same play? You can't go back, son. There's no turning back. Like, did you see the anger that was out there when it was the George Floyd protest? The anger is still out there. said a lot of rappers was wearing shirts in 2010 to 2013 was the hype. What you mean? Oh, wearing skirts. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. And that's something that it changes the roles. You know what I'm saying? That's another thing they've already had a lot of practice with. Where they realize that if they change the roles in society, they could destroy it. Now, Illuminati said, I got a student who got two moms, and I can see how it affects the young guy's behavior, right? You know, because the particular roles is thrown off. You know what I'm saying? How exactly you're supposed to relate to different situations, different ciphers that you go into. You know what I'm saying? But if you look around, that's what they've always done. Is destroy the roles, and they got a lot of different, drugs is something also. It destroys the roles where, you know, if the parents become drug addicts, they can't really play the role of parent. You understand what I'm saying? That starts to disturb the roles. This is something that happened in our community. You understand what I'm saying? Once they came in and introduced dope, that destroyed the roles. You know what I'm saying? If the father is an addict, he's not going to be able to keep his job. You know what I'm saying? So when you live in a country where, money is how you take care of yourself, then they destroy that role. And then they destroy, once you destroy that role in a certain generation, that role becomes destroyed. You know what I'm saying? You know, for years to come, for generations, I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? If the father is not educated, how is he going to teach his family? You see what I'm saying? They destroy that role. You know what I'm saying? So now that education is not instilled in all the next generations. You know what I'm saying? Same thing for the woman. You know what I'm saying? If she ends up having to play a position, right, where she can't be the caregiver that she could be, you understand what I mean? Because she's got to deal with that level of survival now, then they've destroyed that role. You know what I'm saying? If it's just the things, you know what I'm saying, just at the root level, the time they spend with them, but I'm saying just all the knowledge, even if they doing the right thing. You got you got households that was destroyed because people tried to play their role, but it was so difficult. You know what I'm saying? Like you got people who uh, you know, the father, he's doing his thing, he's doing what he can do, he's going to work. The mother, she's got to go to work now to add on because of the cost of living. And so now the kids don't have that guidance and they start getting into trouble. So, that's uh to me, that's the worst effect. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's probably a couple of laughs. You know what I'm saying? You know, another thing they do, and that also happens when you see men wearing dresses, right? Is that you start to redefine things. You actually start to redefine the role. It's like, I've seen things, where it said that, you know, all women don't have menstruation. Now, what they mean by that is transgender women. That's how loosely, that's how loosely that role, that's how loosely that role has been defined now. All right, Supreme Divine. That's how loosely that role has been defined. See, like, look, even as black people, right? We accept such a loose definition of who is black based on uh, the one drop rule that a white woman can come in with a curly perm and play a black woman. How did Rachel Dolezal come off with that for all those years? Because of how loosely we define what is black. Now, I said it's like they're doing this all over again. Way back in Saudi Arabia, they used to castrate the biggest, blackest person and have them guarding the prettiest women and princesses, supposedly, but nevertheless. Nah, they did. This is why you don't see the evidence of um, you don't see the evidence of the African slave trade in certain countries. Like in the Middle East, you don't see the evidence, meaning, you don't see this large population of black people. Like if you go to Brazil, if you go to America, if you go to England, France, you see the people there who was brought there as slaves. And you see, different people that's, they various degrees of mixed because you see they've been reproducing together. But in those countries where they castrated the male slaves, then you don't see that large population still there. Yeah, Kendall Rowe, and they say people is born. I haven't. It's one of them things where I wasn't curious enough about it to ever, really consider all the different aspects of, if you're born that way or not. But no, I didn't see the video of Genuine. I haven't seen Genuine in a while. Manola Music and Films. Well, originally we was we're supposed to be talking about the Capitol Hill. We're supposed to be talking about the Battle of Capitol Hill, and then we got a little detour. PC Realm said they still took some of the women and got them. Yeah, but what happens is, this is one of the reasons why I tell people that, you know, they always say, black is dominated. Listen, man, what ends up happening in those situations that, yeah, the slave masters, they still will have some children with the slaves, but then those children, uh the black ends up getting bred out of them. Like, somebody sent me a story about a dude who was he was in Mississippi. Was it Mississippi? Jones County. You see. Yeah, it was supposed to be some place called Free State of Jones County. And a guy named Newton Knight was apparently the leader of it. And he was a guy that he had two wives, right? He had a wife that he married when he was young, and then he had a wife that he married when he got a little older. But she was a slave who first worked for his grandfather, but he didn't own her as a slave. He married her, and they had some kids together. And for whatever reason, out of his whole story, that was uh, one of the things that caught me was this wife, right? And it says here in the legacy point of her story, it says many of Rachel's children were encouraged by Newton to marry someone who was as close to white as possible, wanting to erase that one drop of Negro blood in their veins. So Newton Knight is the father of some of her kids. She got some other kids, but uh, apparently this woman died. Uh, she only was about 48, 49 or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So her husband that was still there, the white guy, encouraged the children to marry someone who was as close to white as possible, wanting to erase that one drop of Negro blood in their veins. The Knight family, mothered by Rachel, grew to have a reputation as the white Negroes of Mississippi due to their light skin color and straight hair. As most of Rachel's later descendants were white passing, they fled to other states to start new lives in the 1920s and 1930s, enjoying opportunities that were unavailable to African Americans at the time. Rachel's great grandson, Davis Knight, married Junie Lee Spradley, a white woman, in 1946. 2 years later, Davis was charged with violating Mississippi state constitution that stated the marriage of a white person with a Negro or mulatto or person who shall have 1/8 or more of Negro blood shall be unlawful and void. During his trial, Davis asserted to the court that he was white and his wife believed him to be white. As his wife believed him to be white, and his Navy service records listed him as white. Initially, the corporate claimed that because his great grandmother Rachel was considered a Negro, that implicated Davis at least 1/8 black and therefore was in violation of the law. This is an example of Mississippi's one drop rule, which states that if an individual has any black or African ancestry, they will be considered legally black. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. In 1949, Davis appealed his case to the Supreme Court of Mississippi, and the Supreme Court of Mississippi reversed his conviction. The Mississippi state laws against interracial marriage were nullified by the United States Supreme Court when it passed Loving versus Virginia in 1967 and formally repealed in the 1980s. So you see. Oh, Manola Music and Films. You had heard of the Jones, what is it? The Jones County secession of Jones County, the Free State of Jones. You knew about that? I had never heard of that guy before, or uh, the science of this Jones County thing, but apparently um, they had some escaped slaves with them. These Jones County rebels. You know what I mean? So somebody first sent me the story just dealing with the Newton Knight guy. You know what I'm saying? But then as I saw that it was black people involved with the story, I started looking up the black people. But there is some, I saw it was some conjecture about whether it was. Oh, you talking about the the Battle of Capitol Hill is what you call in the Fake Rebellion. Now that was the Battle of Capitol Hill. He said, check Enos Cantor. If you look at him, what does he look like to you? Because sometimes he looks ambiguous. I mean, he looks Turkish. Wait, what? Frederick Douglass was Hotep? They portrayed Frederick Douglass' character to have his original wife from Maryland and the other woman on his arm from France somewhere on some uh, polygamous in the John Brown series. Hmm. I didn't. I haven't seen the John Brown series, but Frederick Douglass was Hotep. But you gotta remember, you know, that's just that's the thing about Asia Minor. See, like when you're saying right now, you know, he see Asia Minor is directly connected to three continents. Like I think it is like it's something called the Hellenic Straits or something like that. There is like a little body of water, but it's something to the like in order for you to go from Greece into like Turkey, there's a small body of water right there. I can't or there's like a strait right there, like a little, but the Middle East is connected to all three continents. And so the people that you see there is gonna have you're gonna see people with characteristics from all three places. Showtime. See, you don't be paying attention, man. You don't know you don't know the Hotep signs. Never teach the Wu Tang. Uh-oh. Kendall Rowland. Well, uh, you said colored people criminalize racial unions, and PCR said the colored man had to keep his seed safe. It wasn't so much his seed as the white woman. See, because uh, you know, the white man has never had a problem. Uh, he's never had a problem with uh, you know, interracial action between the white man and the black woman. Like if you notice, even most of these cases, right? And I'm not saying that it didn't happen at all. I'm sure somebody has an example or you could pull something up. But if you notice, when you have these cases of these interracial marriages, right? Or just, people having to go to court, like how the guy in the thing I was just reading, is generally always the black man and the white woman. Because, you know, first of all, that's one of the slave laws, is that you a slave if your mother is a slave. So if all these dudes if all these black men start having kids with white women, you're going to lose your slave stock. You understand what I'm saying? But that's generally, and that lasted all the way up into uh, the civil rights era. Like I can't recall exactly who made that quote, but there's a dude who made a quote and said, "Listen, uh, if little black boys go to school with little white girls, it's going to be trouble." So this is why, if you see somebody who genetically, whatever, there's sometimes they trace people back in. There's especially a lot of Irish. You know what I'm saying? A lot of Irish indentured servants that came here as indentured servants, and so, you know, because of their class and the fact that they at that time didn't have really no opportunities to really uh, excel just from being white. See, white is a thing that really was invented in uh, post World War II in America. Like all those Italians, Irish, and all of them being white, that happened when they moved to the suburbs. At least here in New York, that's the history. Like before, really to this day, you still got Italian neighborhoods, Irish neighborhoods, German neighborhoods, et cetera, et cetera. But see, once they move to the suburbs, now everybody now mixes together, and you're not in your little enclave. Everybody starts to assimilate now. And one of the things of assimilating was you had to join the club of keeping black people down. See, so one of the ways that you join the club is you sign what they call it, like a real estate covenant, meaning you agree when like in your mortgage or your papers when you buy your house, you agree never to sell the house to a black person. See, once you start doing these type of things, you get in the union, and we don't, we're not really sponsoring black people. Like, don't be introducing no black people over here to the union. Once it starts to be these different benefits, now you get much more white people saying, "Whoa, I don't want to be down with that." But that's the probably most you're gonna see the situation being of somebody who's mixed, and the person who they mixed in with is the person who they mixed in with is uh, a white woman. See, that's another flaw. That's another flaw in that idea that you are who your father is. Because if you are who your father is, right, and there's a slave master in your history, that means you white, doesn't it? And I'm telling you, if you go according to the DNA, the way they do the analysis right now, they would tell you that a lot of people that we think of black as black, I'm talking about people that we look right at them, they clearly black, but they would tell you that that person is of European ancestry. Because once you run into that slave master, right, in your genealogy tree, right, if you run into a slave master, not saying that everybody's gonna, but if you run into a slave master in your genealogy tree, remember, they collect DNA, or they trace DNA from the father to 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 the father. And they trace the the female DNA from the mother to 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 the mother. Kendall Rowland said they formed nations in a system while we were still dealing with tribes. Um, I wouldn't really say that. You know, the like I said, the nations is actually a fairly, you know, nation states being the dominant political form is only like 200 years old, if that. Like when World War I happened, right? They tell you that it's this country and that country, but those was really empires. The British was an empire still at that time. France, France, I think probably was a nation state by then. Uh, but the most of them was empires, the Ottoman Empire, et cetera, et cetera. Oh yeah, Diana and Russ kids. You mean like Tracy Silverstein? That's what you're talking about, Tracy Silverstein. Why you gonna take a shot? Why you gonna take a shot at Tracy Silverstein like that? what you say here, VCR? You couldn't introduce. They couldn't introduce them and all this and moving in because it's harder to make propaganda stick if colored people can chat with original people. Um, well, like I said, when I just read the thing where it told you that the fear of the masses by the ruling class and the rich, you know what I'm saying, is epic and historic. Yeah, some people, you can't take your genetic, you can't take your genealogy, from medieval colored people. You know what I'm saying? That's what the one drop rule is. This is some medieval colored people came up with something. But yeah, though, you know what I'm saying? You gotta, get back to the point, man. You gotta look at the history, man. You have to look at the history, man, so that you could put the facts, whatever facts that you have, they always had to be contextualized. Like for instance, does anybody know that an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth was at first made a law so that it was a merciful thing. Like right now, we look at an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, right? As this is the live way to be. You know what I'm saying? But when they first instituted that eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, right? What they was really talking about was a different time. When you contextualize it in that time, it means something different. See, in those times, right? Talking about back in Babylon with Hammurabi and all of this, right? If a person looked at you sideways and then something happened to you, and the person recalled that, he'd be like, "Yo, you know what happened to me? That cat, that cat that I passed when I was walking today, yo, he gave me the evil eye, yo. He gave me the evil eye, and then, you know what I'm saying, my cousin got killed. It's that dude. So you know what? I'm gonna have to go kill that nigga, right?" Now, when you go kill that person, you're talking about a time when everything is ran by family clans. So now, wait a minute. Dude from over there came over here and killed my brother. Oh, now I gotta go kill three of his brothers now. We got to roll the whole family clan. Next thing is having years, you know, Hatfield and McCoy shit. Like these tribes, these tribes, as they get bigger and bigger, they just continue fighting. But as we seen in America, you know, for the last year, is that when people's fighting in the streets, we can't really run society like we want to run it. So in order to stop people from having these family feuds that went on and on and on and on, they said, look, it's got to be an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Like, look, you killed his cousin, all right, you get to kill his cousin, but that's it. You know what I'm saying? He knock your eye out, okay, you can knock his eye out. But you can't knock his eye out and break his arm and beat down his mom. You can't do all that. It's an eye for it. It's got equal justice. The punishment is fitting the crime. And it was bringing about certain responsibility too, because the law extended into things like, look, if you built a house and the house was faulty and the house fell in and killed a man's family, all right, the man gets to kill your family now. So really, at that time, that was the merciful thing to do in order to stop all these people from having these blood feuds, was to institute a law that says an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But see, if you institute that same thing and you put it in the context of our modern society, well, look, somebody kill your cousin, you don't get to do nothing. You come down here and testify at the court. That's about it. See, now an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth is vicious. Because yo, dude, you know, why'd you do that? You know, two wrongs don't make a right. And when you contextualize it in what we dealing with now, when you contextualize it with the Abrahamic traditions and religions and the ideas that they manifested. Remember, Hammurabi's not dealing with none of that. So that's why you got to contextualize these things, man. That's why I said that, look, because I don't look at movies, when I look at stuff, I don't see acting. Because that's not the context that I'm generally always thinking in. And let me tell you something else about me. I probably was a grown man already by the time I realized wrestling was fake. I look at WrestleMania and all that. So maybe, that's just maybe I'm just slow that way. Where I don't see all this other stuff. To me, it look real. Kendall Rowland said American black soldiers was with American black soldiers. Now I'm saying when I seen acting, when I go to a movie, I know that's acting, but I don't go that often. And I said when I see things, I see reality. Like, I'm talking about, when people say, look, all the stuff that happened that you see on the news and everything, this is really crisis acting. These are crisis actors, you know, uh, all types of things. I heard George Floyd was really a crisis actor. I'm saying when I saw what I was seeing, when I looked at the tape of George Floyd, it didn't look like acting to me. But to some other people, they saw a crisis actor. To see, I don't really think like that. Like all these, FBI conspiracies, CIA conspiracies, especially when you got 1,000 people involved. That's another distortion that might exist in my mind. Where you telling me that this is all fake, but it's 2,000 people over there. You telling me this whole 2,000 people held water? They all nobody told. That to me is far fetched. Do I think they've never used crisis actors? Yeah, I think they've used crisis actors, but not to the extent and effect that other people have. You know what I'm saying? You said wrestling is fake, but then everything we see on the news is real. Um, well, it's fake news. You know what I'm saying? Uh, I'm not just, these things is not just on the news though. Like we don't all, we not all there at the same time, but it's some things where it's like, it's like if you tell me that it is fake that the World Trade Center got, whatever happened to it. Like, nah, son, I'm saying I'm from New York. Shit's real. Like, I don't, like Vietnam, I saw that on the news. That was real. You know what I mean? Just, all these events saying that everything, because see, first of all, like I already told you, if everything is fake, then mathematics don't work. Like if I think that's the knowledge, but that's really the wisdom acting like knowledge. So I put that first. All right, see, that don't work. So it gives me uh more peace of mind to think that things that's being experienced out here is real. Like, do and like I said, this stuff, why does it always is are the killings in Chicago real? The brothers that be getting killed, is that real? I'm asking. Yeah, see, a lot of Illuminati says it's real. I've seen it on the news. I haven't seen nobody do nothing to nobody in Chicago myself. Yeah, the killing in New York City is real. I mean, you the one that's asking me. Is everything on the news real? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, there's fake news, but I'm saying the events either happened or they didn't happen. So this is what I'm saying. How come nobody never says that's a conspiracy? Like why you gotta be rich and famous for it to be a conspiracy that you return? Kendall Rowland said, I think they create fake news when they want the American public to support, when they want American public support to initiate war on the people who they want to take the resources from. Yeah, but see, are you saying fake news or are you saying propaganda? Because let me tell you something. You see that stuff that happened yesterday? If that happened in Iran, they would say that those people was freedom fighters. They would say that those people is fighting to throw off the the yoke of oppression. Like one time, I seen Putin giving an interview on American TV, and he dropped some bombs. I'm talking about, listen, he shut the interviewer up. The interviewer asked him, yo, what about all the oppression in your country? And, people don't have all these freedoms and rights and stuff like that. The dude was like, yo, man, what are you talking about? Oppression. He's like, yeah, these people over here, they protesting for that. And, y'all did this and y'all did that. He said, yo, man, those people was over there rioting. They got arrested. What are you talking about? He said, but let me tell you this much though. You ain't never seen no news story from Russia with people getting beat down. You ain't never seen the Edmund Pettus Bridge going on in Russia. You ain't never seen what went on this summer where they was jacking people up and slamming them and arresting them just for not wearing a mask. He's like, you ain't never seen that, man. And who are y'all to be talking about us? Now, see that level of propaganda, because see, I've been through times when I seen America be on both sides. I seen America be on both sides. I'm talking about in a battle between the country. Like, look, take Iran and Iraq. At one time, because Iran and Iraq been having beef. Where it really stems from, I don't really know. I know one is mostly a Shia country and one is mostly a Sunni country, but I can't say that's the root of them beefing. See, I seen when America was on the side of Iran, they was having a war, and then they switched and got on the side of Saddam Hussein when he was running Iraq. And a lot of the weapons that Saddam Hussein had, he got them from America. A lot of that technology, he got that from America when they was friends. See, when they go in a country and they go in Vietnam, it's who they decide to pick what side. The side they pick is always the freedom fighters. And the other side is always the terrorists. Right, saying propaganda against Gaddafi. So that's what I'm saying. Are you saying it's fake news because they could show you the same pictures and just give you a different caption, just like they were showing how I think it was in Hurricane Katrina, and they were showing how it was different pictures. They had pictures of black people leaving out the store with different whatever bags they had, whatever. Well, I don't know if they had, they leaving out the stores. And the caption under it was something about looters. And then they show white people leaving out the store with stuff, and the caption under it was something about survivors. Now, Hurricane Katrina was real. People going in the stores and dealing with whatever. You understand what I'm saying? Uh, that was real. But it was just the propaganda that was attached to it. See, that's what I don't do. See, that's the reason. Let me tell you something. A lot of people have been pissed off at me for years. Cause I watch Fox 5. I know what they're gonna say. I know, what kind of spin they're gonna put on things. And then I watch MSNBC and CNN. And I already know what kind of spin they're gonna put on things. And in between that, I'm gonna see what I see. But you get caught up, man, in the propaganda, man, and what these people are saying. So that's what they put in now. These people, they terrorists and all that shit like that. But do you recall the Arab Spring? Does anybody recall the Arab Spring? What was the Arab Spring about? So you only know Fox 5 because of Can. Listen, you're now watching all sides. See, that's how you get caught up in the propaganda. VC Realm said no different from Beijing Olympics clearing all them street markets, selling dogs in preparation for the colored man coming over. Now I wouldn't say that's like it. You know what I would say it's like? It's like the way Americans condemn they condemn Asians for eating dogs, right? But they eat cows. And to Indians, at least the Indians who, in their religion, they reveres the cow. They looking at the Americans like, how could you eat hamburgers? It's the context of the people. You understand what I'm saying? And how they see the animals. See, in Asia, dog is not their best friend. It's not their best friend. They don't see them the same way. But if you only look at it from this one context right here, then you don't see. See, look, it's some places where you don't keep dogs in the house. Some places you don't keep dogs in the house. They animals. They feed them. If they get sick or something like that, they don't come in the house. So that's why I said, do a person really have to make up an event when they got the power over the propaganda like that? See, one thing you gotta realize, man, that this is pimping. This being a hotel channel, of course. But this is pimping. The kind of man is pimping, son. Pimp with his mind, man. Pimp with his mouth, man. Don't pimp with his hands. That's what it means when they say they took the the uh the chains off the arms and the legs and put them on the brain, son. That is pimping now, pimping. Why go through that whole thing to make up something when I can show you the same picture and tell you what I want to tell you and you're gonna believe it? See, let me tell you something about me, man. To me, conspiracies is real. They don't be this made up stuff y'all be talking about. When I grew up, conspiracies was real, son. Like I grew up, look, Watergate, uh, the Kennedy assassinations, both of them, uh, Martin Luther King assassination, Iran Contra, conspiracies was real, son. So I'm not saying there's no conspiracies. I'm just saying that some of these be so wild out, like, to somebody who's seen real conspiracies. I'm like, yo, this is like some outer space. This is, you know, Planet Zebulon stuff right here, man. What is this about? See, because at the end of the day, even when they go in there on some guerrilla shit, right? Eventually, it's got to come down to pimping, pimping. Remember when they kept going to Iraq and Afghanistan and all these places? They said, "Look, we could take over. We could outshoot them, but we have to win over the minds and hearts of the people." See, that's why you see the army over there. They go over there, blow up some people's country, and then they give them some some of them MRE packages of food. They go there and tell the people, "Yeah, we here to liberate you." You say you're gonna let me get away with that? Get away with what? How can some be far out unless we can prove it, i.e., a docuseries or a movie or unclassified documents? I don't understand what you're saying. What I'm saying is that a lot of these conspiracies be far out. The motivations is far out. The amount of things that people is going through is far out. The amount of people that have to be involved is far out. The amount of loss that you telling me the people is ready to take is far out. Like, telling me that, this, you know, COVID is a conspiracy to kill black people. Well, how come mostly white people die? Now, the answer for that is, well, they so wicked that they don't mind killing some of them just to get some of us. No, it can't work like that for them. How it's gonna work like that for them? And it's only one of them to every 11 of us. So if they get in something with us and they take more casualties than us, how they gonna win? See, to me, that's far out. That's far out. And then there's always the old trusty, when everything else fails, martial law. Whatever they do it so they can institute martial law. Let me tell you something. If they could choke somebody out in the street and nothing don't happen to them, then it's already martial law. What do you think martial law is? If they can kneel on your neck for 10 minutes and then walk off from that, it's already martial law. Why do they need to do all this other stuff? Why do they need to kill their people in order to institute what's already going on? Just to me, that's why the stuff be, it'd be far fetched. Just that's true too, Kendall Rowland. What else can they do now? But you know something, Kendall Rowland? That's one of them sayings. That's one of them famous last words right there. How much worse can it get? Trust me, it can always get worse. That's one of them famous last words. Well, how bad could it be? You would get caught up with that one. Right, that's what I'm saying. It's not even them doing the physical violence, just wherever you want in certain towns and states, and you put certain ideas out there and watch what happens. So that's what I'm saying. There's people, listen, the average soldier that's on the front line, he got no idea what the whole mission is. He don't know what the whole objective is. You could be a frontline soldier in the army and not know what you're doing. Right, knowledge, yeah. That's what I'm saying. When you go down south, they don't keep dogs in the house. They feed them, so the dog, he still comes through. They go outside and play with the dog and all that. They don't bring dogs in the house down here. Maybe like very small puppies. See, even that to somebody who got one of them little teacup dogs, that's cruel to them. But it's all in the context of what you're dealing with. See, this is what I'm saying, man. Listen, man, a lot of things what people think the white man is doing, the white man ain't worried about that. He on cruise control. Question, VCR. How many Caucasian people introduce you to Christianity? That's not rhetorical. Anybody in the room, answer that. How many Caucasian people introduce you to Christianity? As when you was a baby. I'm saying, who introduced you to Christianity? Who told you that God was a righteous but unseen being that exists in the sky? No, no, no. You wasn't in slavery, Kendall Rowland. Who taught you Christianity? See, for me, it was my great grandmother. Lovely lady. But if we gonna deal with what's reality, she was the person that introduced me to Christianity. So see, that's pimping. That's pimping. I ain't got to go down there and whip nobody and make them call themselves Toby now. I ain't got to go down there and whip nobody and tell them and make them call themselves Toby. And when you think about all the other things, when you look at your whole 136, see, the difference is that people see, even I'm talking about in terms of black people. Like, oh, these kind of people, yeah, they like that. Or the people from that country, yeah, they like that, right? Who who introduced you to that kind of idea of separation? Don Bishop. You finally made it. Peers at school on the separation tip, right? And were those peers colored people? See, and what I'm saying is these the things that we gotta defeat. Like these things is we should be putting much more thought, right, into these kind of things that's real. See, because these type of things that we get taught in our own community, right, is this is the son of man searching for trillions of years. You know, trillions of years meaning way before the color man came. See, way before you even, some people may not even know nobody that's a colored man by the time they get introduced to Christianity. See, these are the things when you really say you got to take the devil off your planet. See, these are the things when you can see through the mist that's in your own, when you can see through the mist that's in your own self in your own community. Then you can look at something like the Battle of Capitol Hill and draw it up. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, the reason why I say what I'm saying is because, like I said, from the study of history that's occurred over thousands of years, these is things that I seen. These is things that I seen be the case. So what I'm saying is that when I tell somebody what's happening, I'm not basing it on the emotion of liking this side or liking that side. I'm not basing it on, this kind of, almighty white man point of view. I'm saying historically, like, listen, when I went to school, what I recall is they taught me that the American Revolution was pretty much the same thing we seen yesterday. So now, if we talking about the British and King George, see, we could put a certain propaganda on that. Like, one thing they use to, you know, put a kind of image on the Indians. See, there was lots of tribes that things is plentiful where they at. I'm talking about all over the planet. So they really wasn't fighters like that. But see, when you see in the movies, right, most of the time, not all the time, most of the time, what they show you in the movies is the plains Indians. See, the Indians that was on the plains, they was ready to fight. Now I have my own idea of why that is. My idea of why that is that the plains Indians knew what time it was. See, by the time the colored man got to the Midwest, the Indians that was out there, they already heard about what happened in South America. We went through that. We went through that, in ancient times. I'm talking about not the time that they even, other, I don't know the exact order of them. You know what I'm saying? But I'm talking about like back in the times when it was saber-toothed tigers and stuff like that in America, it was horses in America. But those horses died off. The modern horses that you see in America, they escaped from the Spanish. The Spanish brought them over here and they escaped and then they migrated all over. See, the same thing happened with people. See, as they coming down there and they conquering different things, some people is escaping and they coming up to North America. So they telling these Indians, well, yeah, what y'all doing up here? Yo, saying, it just got funky down there, saying. Yeah, some cats came. I don't know what's wrong with them, but they white. It went bad, saying. We up here now. See, you got other Indians that was driven down from Canada by the French. Yo, son, what y'all doing over here? Yo, son, we ran into some cats, man. Yeah, we thought something was funny with them from the jump because they was white. But yeah, it got funky, son. Yeah. We couldn't, we had to be up out of there, son. And then you got the Indians that's coming from the East Coast that ran into the British and the Dutch. That what happened. Yo, son, I don't know, son. Some cats came through, you know, first we looked out for them. We was cool, you know what I'm saying? But something's wrong with them, saying they start wigging out. They got these some kind of sticks, man, make loud noise and you know. And so by the time they got to, the Oklahomas and the Missouris, the Oklahomas and the Missouris, these Indians is like, nah, son, we ain't going no place, man. Like, nah, this is it, son. Hey, where we going? In the Pacific Ocean? Nah, son, nah, we ain't going no place. This is it. This is it, son. See, now they running into Indians that they've been exposed to the Cherokees now that came over here. What y'all doing over here? Trail of Tears, son. Trail of Tears. So the way they depict these people, right? They depict them as just people who, yeah, don't accept no blankets, don't take nothing from them. See, the way they depict these people is they just warlike. But by the time they get out to the plains in the 1800s, this is 200 years of y'all being over here wilding. And so now what do that do? That puts a justification on everything that they did to them. See, they see now VCR run, when you look at it like that, you like, damn, they was making their last stand. Now, being from Missouri, I'm sure you know the whole story of the Cowboys and the Indians is probably big out there. But they don't, that's the way they do the propaganda. This is not how they present and who those people are. But they realize that. Soon as once they in the Midwest, you think they don't know that it's a desert over there? You think they don't know that? Look, man, over there is the Rocky Mountains, man. We can't grow no food over there. You think they ain't know that? So now we gonna rock out right here, son. This is we gonna battle right here. Ain't no more space. It's already a tribe over there. Now that's my idea of what happened. But I'm not the one that delivers the propaganda. So VC Rum says the whole St. Louis area was an ancient city pre-colored man contact. So what you talking about? The Clovis? Was this the Clovis? The Clovis civilization? She said, Nala said, it's funny that you asked about the first white or colored man that introduced me to Christianity. His son was way worse. All he had was a gun magazine and talked of guns as a child. Uh, uh, nah, I never really, well, I just see like Jimmy Swaggart. But again, that was with my great grandmother. She used to watch Jimmy Swaggart. And there was another dude too that was all like that. But Jimmy Swaggart, uh, when the Pope came to America, like when he got shot, the Pope that got shot that time, I seen it. Uh, uh, but that was on TV. You know what I'm saying? The Reverend Humans. Reverend Humans and Reverend Ike. That was really my experience with Christianity. They say different reports because European names them one thing and other Europeans give them their proper name. So you saying there's burial mounds all over St. Louis? But how old are they dating it? The tribe names is in cities and state names such as Illinois, Osage. Yeah. I think Manhattan is a I think Manhattan is a an Indian name too. Jamal Gray said the Hopi, that's an Indian tribe, have a set of prophecies that detail the coming of the colored man, the railroad, etc., and claim that the last great battle before the age of peace will be led by the black man. Hmm. You know, the Hopi, uh, they they another group, man. Uh, they got a lot of these strange like prophecies and stories. You know, sometimes I wonder about those, man. You know, like is that is a lot of things like a modern interpretation. You know what I'm saying? Like they got that picture of that dude in South America, and they say that he's on a spaceship. The Cahokia Mounds. That's what they and I'm saying these is burial mounds, but they don't. So they haven't like examined. They haven't examined or like what they call it. They haven't excavated none of the stuff to find out um what kind of culture built it. God Cypher Divine says, I heard some black people say they're glad the Caucasian took us from Africa and brought them to America. So who really perpetuates this mindset, us or them? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So when they excavated the mounds and they got the stuff out, like with did they date anything? Did they put any dates on anything? Because you got these people called the Clovis people was here before 16,000 years ago. And the Roland said, I found out that dollar is cash flow dollar's real government name. I met a dude who claimed that he was Kraft Creflo's cousin and his government was dollar. Before that, I couldn't stand cash flow. I mean, I don't, shout out to cash flow, but he's not exactly a friend to the room. So they carbon dated everything from the mound. I mean, that's interesting. But I mean, it's to be expected. It's definitely to be expected that you're gonna find ancient things, ancient structures and uh tools, from ancient people. Definitely that was shocking. You gotta get that money. See, that's the thing in America, man. See, black people is the only people that didn't come to America to make money. Everybody else came here to make money. That's why they stay focused on it. That's a much more urgent issue. You know what I mean? Some of these issues, you know, everybody still come. I mean, yeah, people still coming to make money because they know, uh, you know, black people spend. See, that seed is it's not planted. Like even the way we tell our stories, right? Of you know, like those of us that's in major cities, right? And our families migrated from the deep south, right? We don't tell those stories in that same kind of way. And how many times you heard a black person say, my grandfather came to New York with $15 in his pocket and he worked hard and he see we don't even think like that. See, if you start thinking like that and you start thinking, okay, I'm somebody that's in a long line of a certain people. So that's going to give you a certain sense of self and a certain focus on, all right, yo, you know what I'm saying? I gotta stick with this mission. I gotta keep carrying this flag. See, that's how other people. That's how if you ask other people, what like, look, you heard Kamala Harris tell her story, right? How her mother came here from India as a poor student, and she fought for civil rights and all of these things, and she took me as a little girl with her. See, we don't tell our story that way. Like at the end of the day, we don't teach the history. Now I'm sure some of that is because all of the history wasn't good. You know what I'm saying? Like if you having kids in the 1870s, the 1880s, you probably don't want to tell them about slavery like that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we were slaves and all, but you don't want to break down the day-to-day hardships to these little babies. You hoping to forget, you hoping you can forget what happened. So I'm sure there's some legacy of not, telling it like that. And I'm not saying it's total. Yeah, there's people who know their history, tracing back for centuries. But we don't even teach the history, not the way other people do. We have an influx of Middle Easterners and Mexicans coming in, not huge numbers, but serviceable. But I'm not surprised because they know what to open up here for us to buy. New York grill, Miami grill, Hawaiian grill, fried chicken. Listen, let me tell you something, man. One time, a Jewish dude told me, struggling, he was like, yo, if it wasn't for black people, we all go home. So at first I didn't really catch what he was saying. He was like, yo, you know, everybody that come to America, we come here to make money. Like we want to have our own business and things that we can't do in our country. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, yo, if you try to sell something to white people, it costs too much money. Like, you just trying to open a business, you're not gonna be able to afford the rents in their neighborhoods and all these different types of things. The overhead is just hard to get into that. Then he said, look, I'm Jewish, man. You already know. Jews don't buy nothing. He's like, who else? The different, Chinese people don't buy nothing. African people don't buy nothing. He said, because first of all these people came here to make money and do business. So they're not going to be spending it like that. He was like, other people, he was like, they work, they save their money. So they might have like 10,000. Then at that 10,000, they take 3,000 and go shopping. Everybody gets something, you get furniture, boom, whatever you got, then that's it. You go back to saving. He said black people is the only people that get $300 and spend 250 on sneakers. And so that's their whole idea of coming over here. See, we don't understand the world the same way. And then we've got caught up in this political coalition with the Democrats where, everybody who declares themselves an underdog is supposed to be our friends. And so we don't look at the impact that they having on us. Think about it. How many people they demand to come into your neighborhood, but then when they come in your neighborhood, they don't want you coming in their section of it. See, that's a way that they thinking. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying you got to go to the extreme of that, but I am saying that when it comes to politics, it's every people for themselves. Don Bishop brings up a point right here. Uh, I was just telling my son if black people would stop patronizing the colored man for one day, we could shut down the economy. See, the issue with that is, in my opinion, you got to go company by company. Like you got to do that strategically, you know, and it's just dangerous for several reasons. See, depending on the person, don't get me wrong. If you're talking about like Nike, right, you could do it. You know what I'm saying? Because people don't really need sneakers. Not those sneakers, should I say? You know what I'm saying? Um, but it's one of the things where if you like, yo, we're gonna boycott the supermarket, you still gonna need all that stuff. So you either gonna have to spend more money the day before that, so you have something on the day when you boycotting, or you're gonna have to spend money the next day when you go to stock back up because you used everything that you need. If it, you know what I'm saying, if it's a necessity. And the other dangerous part of it is that uh, we need those jobs. So you can shut down a company, but you better have something for all those people whose job you destroyed. Mathematics go from knowledge to born. And after destroy comes born. You gotta have that knowledge to born back to bring it to existence right there. You gotta already have that set out. Like right now, you don't just go outside. I don't just go outside taking Christianity away from people. Because for some people, that's the major law that they go according to. Now, I'm not saying that Christianity is good, but I'm just saying that when the black community was a much more Christian community, you didn't see things like praise dancing. There's some things you just didn't see. Don Bishop said this goes back to my last point. We play a major role in our own demise. I would say at this point we're playing the most major role. I haven't checked on the statistic. I don't know how it's measured, but I will say something that I heard that since 1973 or whenever it is that abortion was legalized, that more black babies have been killed than were born. That statistic is crazy to me. I haven't researched it fully, but that statistic is crazy to me. So on any given weekend, right? Enough brothers kill other brothers, son, to to listen. A clan member in his wildest wet dreams could never have imagined, you know, 50 people, you shoot 50 people, 50, 50 brothers, man. You know, 30 of them, 30 of them go, 30 of them pass on. And that's one city. In their wildest imagination, they didn't do that much damage. Right? See, knowledge. He said, my dad did speak of coming to Milwaukee on the back of a truck in 1969, January to be exact. Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. That type of history, when you instill that, this is a this is a lineage, and you have a role in that lineage. See, that's what we not, so people is not connected, which makes it easier for them to do something to one another in the community. See, now look, like somebody said, the slave master taught everybody this. That's all fine and good. But the reality is the slave master ain't coming to solve it. So I'm not saying all this and analyze it to say, yo, black people is evil, black people is wrong. I don't wanna make it seem like I'm bashing black people. What I'm saying is that we gotta look at the problem from that angle because only we gonna solve it. Like a person cannot unpunch you in the face. And once that happens, either you're gonna do something about it or, it's just gonna ride. Kendall Rowland said the Democrats know that most black people vote with the mindset of my people went through so much just for my right to vote. So I gotta vote. They know this is how we think and they feed on that. I mean, yeah, that's a certain mentality out there. Um, you know, what really uh what really brought them over was Kennedy. Kennedy and then Lyndon Johnson. Because Lyndon Johnson had a great society. He was the one that expanded out the welfare state. Him and Nixon. You know what I'm saying? Uh, they was the ones who uh, intensified the kind of rules on welfare. Where the man not being in the home. That was always a thing. but it definitely intensified, like the stipulations. You know what I'm saying? Like just to, and I know, I'm not saying it, but I'm just saying that in terms of the colored man, that was his strategy with WIC, women, infants, and children. See, from the jump, the program is already telling you no men allowed. See, and I'm gonna tell you how you know. Let me tell you how you know that black people vote for Democrats because of that free shit. Because most black people in their personal life is Republican. See, they expect democracy from the government. When it comes to the government, look, if I come and ask you for some money, I want you to give me some money. I want you to give me some welfare. I want you to give me some social security. I want you to give me some money, man. I want you to give me this government job. But ask about somebody black for some money. They turn Republican on you. Now we ain't listen, man. We ain't got it, man. We especially the old black people. Nah, man, I'm on fixed income, man. See, they Republican. They Republican in their personal life. Indeed, Don Bishop. Don Bishop said, recall a Hebrew brother said, okay, take away my religion and give me what? In order to take things away, it must be replaced with something viable. Indeed. But then they said that, oh, how many abortions for the colored people? I mean, I don't know. Uh, and it didn't even dawn on me to look up what their number was. You know what I'm saying? Margaret Sanger said that was her main motivation for creating Planned Parenthood. PC Realm said, but then again, I keep seeing original women with 3 to 5 babies. Um, but see, what happens is a lot of times they got 3 to 5 babies, right? But then they might have had an abortion or two before they started having the kids. You know what I'm saying? And then they might, uh, you know, have a couple, after, when they, like you said, they got 3 to 5, now they don't have no more. So it'll be abortions in the mix of that. And then you got other women that's just bloody murderesses. But you said you got one of them puzzle pieces I want to learn about. What's that? Third said his grandfather came to New York City from Johns Island on a boat before 1938. But you said, I guess you read what he said on why he put that into play on the welfare state. Who, Nixon or Lyndon Johnson? Yeah, that's how old people be. They tell you they ain't got no money, then they go to the casino. I tell you, they Republican. Look, ain't that's how the Republicans do? They tell you now we ain't got no money for no welfare, but you corporate people, you want a tax break? I told you they're Republican, man. I tell you, man. Um, well, I see what you're saying about colored people. Well, colored people is just they theoretically, I think it's 2.1 children. I think it's two is it 2.3 children or 2.1 is the replacement rate. I think, in order for the population to be maintained, and colored people is below that number. Down bitches that ask a black man for money and he goes Ralph Cramden on you. Humming, humming, humming. Yeah, son. That's how they are in real life. So Lyndon Johnson, what was his motivation? Um, well, there was a couple. You know what I'm saying? One was, uh, you know, original people was tearing this country up in the early 60s. You know, original people was tearing this country up. You know what I'm saying? And it came a point in the 60s where almost every faction of people, besides like mainstream white men, every every demographic was in um, pretty much open rebellion. You know what I'm saying? Like all of these different movements that's getting started. You got the hippies. You know what I'm saying? You got the women's and women's lib is going crazy. You know, you got the civil rights movement. You know what I'm saying? The college kids is protesting. You know what I'm saying? Like the whole country was kind of in open rebellion. You know what I'm saying? And for one of the things that black people were saying is look, this is happening because we ain't got nothing. So that was one of the things that started happening in great society. Like you out there in the Midwest, you know what I'm saying? And there's this is just what I seen from the outside. I'm not saying it's the only place. I know it's a neighborhood in Chicago called Woodlawn. And I think it's Woodlawn. Um, and in the 60s, they gave there's a gang that they gave them some money, and for a while they fixed up the neighborhood. Like dudes was planting trees and stuff, and they was having community programs, doing stuff for the little kids. For different reasons that I don't really, I know like somebody got arrested and all this stuff, and so it was one of them situations where they was trying something. You know what I'm saying? Even a lot of how Mayor Lindsay was treating us was also a part of that. Where it's like, yo, son, black people was wigging out. Like everybody else was protesting. But black people was burning shit down. We need to get these people to peace. So that was, one of the things that they did. I'm not saying that's the only thing that they did. You know what I'm saying? Right. So you heard about that VCR when the brothers in Chicago had got some money and they started fixing up the hood. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, the program fell apart for different reasons. Shout out to Knowledge and Love for that. We call this again? Super chat. You know what I'm saying? Greatly appreciated. Knowledge and Love said fixed income. That's my pop's favorite line. Listen, man, I know black people. I know black people, man. Now I said you are on it for the last 2 months. All my mom and her people been talking about is getting some money from Joe Biden and more money from Joe Biden. Yeah, that's you know, yeah, it was different things happening. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I don't know all the details of the story. You know what I'm saying? But that was one of the things. But it was other things too. You know what I'm saying? Where when once you had integration, right? Integration also had that aspect like slavery. You know what I'm saying? Where they knew they was about to extract all of this money out the community. That was one of the reasons that they did it. Is that you got the Great Depression, right, up until World War One. So what takes them out of the Great Depression and I mean World War Two, pardon me. You got the Great Depression to the start of World War Two. So what starts lifting them really out of the depression is the economy has to churn in order for this war material. Remember, America got into World War One in 1941, but they was fighting over in Europe from at least 1939. But I think Hitler first started doing things in like 1937, something like that. He started invading different countries. Then everybody starts declaring war in like 1939. So for all them years, America is selling weapons and ammunition to both sides. So this is what starts bringing them out is this war economy. You know what I'm saying? So after pretty much Korea, now the war economy is slowing down. And the next war that comes up is a different kind of war. It's a drain on money. You know what I'm saying? And being that they lost in Vietnam, now you can't extract no money. You can't, what are you going to do? You can't, you're not there. You can't take their oil. You can't take their gold. You can't take their, you know what I mean? So now you got a drain on the mainstream economy. But at the same time, the black economy is booming because what's happening is black people go out and they work for white people. But then they get paid, but now you can't spend that money with white people because you're not even allowed in their stores. So you gotta go spend the money with black people. So this money is circulating. This is the money people are spending to pay for all the buses, man, that they going all around protesting on. And this was the reason that won people over. Like it wasn't, integration didn't happen because everybody was bleeding hard and everybody thought that, the way they're treating those black people is just wrong. That's one of the main reasons it happened is because they wanted to tap into that economy. So just like with slavery, they knew that, okay, if we do this, it's going to produce a whole bunch of black people, right, with no education, you know what I'm saying? Uh, limited skills, and you know, they're going to cause havoc in society if we don't have nothing for them. And so this is also one of the reasons for the rise in the prisons. That's also a thing. Like, okay, well, we could give a certain amount of people this, and we could do this with a certain amount of people. And, yeah, these other cats over here, like these cats that really, you know, we really don't want them wandering around us. Lock them up and just warehouse them in there, until they old enough where, most of the fight then came out of it. You know what I'm saying? And so, uh, welfare also served that purpose. You know what I'm saying? Of, okay, this is how we gonna keep this faction, because we're not gonna be hiring them in this new economy. Like, once everything gets integrated, we're gonna go in, take over all their businesses, and fire all of them. There's other reasons. Of course, I went to some of the, like, some of the more diabolical ones. Do I think they were saving money too while spending amongst each other, or it was the same amount? No, they wasn't saving money. Like, first of all, you gotta remember, outsourcing has already started. You know what I'm saying? Like, probably by the late 50s, definitely the early 60s, outsourcing has already started. You know what I'm saying? The drain from a lot of these cities like in the Midwest over there, like Detroit and Milwaukee, them type of places, that industrial uh, economy peaked out in the 50s. It still was going on, you know what I'm saying? It didn't end then, but that's the beginning of, them starting to outsource things. So see, you got colored people in the Midwest that ain't worked in generations. See, all those was the things that was happening. Uh, why they had to, because they got this image to uphold of America as the greatest country on earth and all of this. So you can't have people, uh, you know, a large amount of people being destitute. It says, do you think those were happenstance, or was the plan all along in that time period, on the welfare to jails to integration? Oh no, that was the plan all along. Um, the integration, that was another thing that came from that. You got the Civil Rights Bill in 1965, and immigration opens back up in 1966. Like, you got different people that's coming in, but they mostly coming in as like laborers. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was a few, it wasn't totally closed, but you got that influx that comes in the late 1800s, early 1900s. All those Italians, Jews, et cetera, et cetera. Um, Uh, but immigration pretty much closes down in 1917 because that's when America got into World War One. So, for instance, when they get into World War One, Italy was on the other side in World War One. You know what I'm saying? Um, at any rate, I'm not really sure about it. I gotta look that back up. But they knew that you got German people coming in, like they go into war with these people, so they don't want to let these immigrants in, so they shut immigration down. You know what I'm saying? Um, so then that was another thing they did, just like they did after slavery. That's what I'm saying. If you look at them doing the civil rights bill and you look at slavery, you'll see them institute a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? In the 1860s, that's when the first influx of Italians come over here, and they people who it was a war going on in Italy at the same time of the Civil War, and the people who lost that war, they wanted them out of there. So they brought. That was when the first immigrants from over there started coming, and that was one of the reasons that they did that. You know what I'm saying? Because they knew that they was going to have to replace all this labor that they was just getting for free. You know what I'm saying? But you don't want to have to pay these black people. So they brought in some other people to dilute uh, what could economically be accomplished. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that was one thing that they did. Uh, Jails. That's another thing that they did. What are we gonna do with all of these, crazed black men that is prone to rape white women? You know what I'm saying? We're gonna have to warehouse them away. You know what I'm saying? So, the chain gangs and the prison gangs. You know what I'm saying? That definitely was uh was a part of the plan. You know what I'm saying? Like being being a slave was never a sentence before that. Like why'd they have to write it in the Constitution if that already was the law that okay, everybody that get locked up could be a slave? So yeah, they planned it. You know what I'm saying? You know, and you just got to look at the timing. Not saying that that's the only reason, but I'm saying that's another thing where you can see that uh, you know the 70s. You know what I'm saying is when most states start this binge of building jails. You know what I'm saying? Like in 1970, it was like 8 jails or something like that in New York State. You know what I'm saying? I think it got up to like 95 or something like that. You know what I'm saying? 8 prisons, I should say. You know what I'm saying? Uh, and a lot of the welfare stuff comes from the welfare stuff is actually is written down. It's something called the Moynihan Report, and I want to say the Moynihan Report is 1969 maybe, but it's he ended up being a senator from New York State, but he wrote something called a Moynihan Report where he pretty much he made an assessment of the black community. You know what I'm saying? And he made predictions of pretty much everything. He made predictions of pretty much everything that came. He was the first. Well, I ain't gonna say the first, but in his report, a lot of things that we say now, like he put that in there. That he was like, yo, the black community is pretty much a matriarchy. You know what I'm saying? These different things, and so they realized that that was a strategy. You know what I'm saying? Um, and it also was the welfare stuff is like a kind of bleeding heart kind of thing. And what I mean by that is, you had all these black men that's, set to, is they in position, not saying that they were set to do it, like this is what uh, the color man wanted to see happen, but he realized that, okay, all these black men, they potential just went through the roof. You know, they can get education, they can get jobs, they can live where they want. So in order to undercut that, you understand what I'm saying? Because remember, a lot of this stuff is also coming from sympathy. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about uh, the way white people is reacting and the country is changing. A lot of it is coming from, you know, white people who they not really exposed to black people at that time. You know what I'm saying? They not really seeing black people. They hear whatever on the news, but they not really exposed to black people like that. They're not exposed to their problems and the trials and tribulations that they're going through. But then when you started seeing things on the news, when you start getting Martin Luther King and the cameras start coming, people start seeing dogs being sicked on people and old church ladies getting beat with batons. You understand what I'm saying? Uh, that's one of the things that caused the kind of backlash reaction. Like, all right, this is too much. You know what I'm saying? We gotta, some colored people that might be more religious or whatever, they looking at this, they like, all right, look, we can't support this. You know what I'm saying? So, uh, you got the black man set to uh to make all this progress. So if we take it away, if we just openly outright take it away, that's gonna look funny. But if we say, well, we would do all that stuff we promised you, but we got to take care of these women and babies, man. Come on, man. You understand what I'm saying? The report, when you read it, a lot of people condemn the report. The report, to me, when I read it, it seems pretty objective. He didn't, or at least maybe I didn't see the whole thing, but he didn't really make the suggestions for what policies they instituted off of it. You understand what I'm saying? But his study provided the context in which they uh, instituted a lot of those policies. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, it was absolutely planned. Because like I said once again, one of the reasons why things come off so smoothly is because they've done it all before. You see what I'm saying? So you will see these same types of tactics used, uh, post-slavery. You will see these same types of tactics instituted um, uh, uh, during the Great Migrations. You know what I'm saying? And you see these same type of things instituted after civil rights. You know what I'm saying? Christopher Gooding. Because I'm bringing this up. Have you ever watched videos from the 1960s and 1970s, like recorded personal, not news, but regular people get the dress code was way different? What you mean? I mean, there was such a thing as shame. Yeah, shame is good. That's one of the things where I'm a little bit contrary to everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Most people, shame, why did you shame that person? Person shouldn't have to shame you. There should be some things that you should be ashamed to have partaken in. I'm not saying you did them, but I'm saying if you did do that, or if what's stopping you from doing that is, I would be ashamed if I beat an old lady in the head over her purse. I'd be ashamed. You ain't got to say nothing to me. I'd be ashamed, just like, damn. I just couldn't see myself doing that. See, when I left, you know, things got too out of hand, man. Like people is proud to say that. You know what I'm saying? Like you hear people say, they don't have nothing they regret, and they wouldn't take nothing back. You probably a fucked up motherfucker. Now don't get me wrong. Maybe everybody hasn't had the same kind of experiences that I had. But if you lived your whole life, man, you saying you don't regret none of that fucked up shit you did, then you just a fucked up person. That's how you is. Stay away from me. Some of the worst people in the world say that. I guess that's how they sleep at night. What you say here, since you're speaking on immigrants leaving war-torn nations, we had those over here with the Bosnians. Oh, you talking? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I noticed they send a lot of people out in the Midwest now. Actually, I first noticed that there was a lot of people um, that came from like Vietnam. Like after the war, they like kids was getting adopted and families was coming over here, and a lot of them was landing out there in the Midwest too. I ain't exactly sure where. I was a kid then, but you know, being from New York, I'm used to knowing, this is the kind of the immigrant capital. At least on this side of the Mississippi, I know you got like Asian people that come into California. She said, you're looking at a chart now, non-marital birth rates in the U.S. 1940 to 2014. Yeah, that's another number that's out there. That's what was it like 90% of kids, like up to like 1965, 1970 or something was born in wedlock, and then it dropped to like 40% or something. I can't recall the exact numbers, but I know it's drastic. Said how cities looked then and people would dress. I wonder, was it people around talking like we talking now? It's from the early 1900s. Yeah, you had your Booker T. Washingtons, your Noble. Well, yeah, Noble Drew Ali comes in. Uh, uh, W.E.B. Du Bois is around then. Um, Marcus Garvey's around then. You know what I'm saying? This type of at least the way we speaking, especially as 5%. You know what I'm saying? Uh, that early 1900 time period is is where a lot of this thought, these type of ideas the seeds start flourishing in America. You know what I'm saying? It never was a time, we had lots of intellectuals the entire time. You know what I'm saying? That's just not the way it's portrayed. Like if Encyclopedia Brown was in here, he He's got lists and lists of these people who is thinking about the black man's condition and how to improve it. You know what I'm saying? Coming up with different ideas on what to do, from going back to Africa to separation to, you know, uh, having law cases, to try to, like Dred Scott, he wasn't no dunce. He knew to go to court and present his case. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, it didn't work out. Everything didn't work out. The failure of a lot of these things wasn't because they was bad ideas always either. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the reasons why the knowledge of these things happening is not passed down to us. You see what I'm saying? Because then we might be able to look at that idea and take a little blueprint from that and be successful. So, there never was a time, you know what I'm saying, the entire time we was in America where there wasn't some intellectual brothers, you know what I'm saying? Uh, you know, did they know where things looked like they was going for them? You mean did the brothers in the early 1900s knew what the 60s and 70s was going to look like? So that it went from 70% born in wedlock to 40% born in wedlock. Or is it 40% born out of wedlock to 70% born out of wedlock? Yeah, the people when I'm saying these leaders, when I'm saying that you have people like Marcus Garvey around, Marcus Garvey had many followers. So those people who was the followers, like you said, I don't know their names. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying they unknown. I personally just don't know their names. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, these, all the people that I named, they had whole organizations. You know what I'm saying? You know, uh, you had the beginnings of, black people, kind of in mass. I wouldn't say mass like it was the majority of people, but definitely the kids who was displaying some type of academic aptitude, they was being sent off to college. This is when the the fraternities and all of that. What y'all keep calling it? The Big Eight or something? What is it? The Big Eight? The the first 14? And so I can't recall what they call it. But they start off all these um, fraternity organizations. You know what I'm saying? In the early 1900s. You know what I mean? Between like 1900 and 1920. You know what I'm saying? So these kids is getting educated. You know what I'm saying? They know what their situation is, and they having these discussions. Like these are the same people that, when, the kids that's going to these colleges, these are the same kids that's showing up, as the first doctors, that want to move into a different community, that want, what I'm saying, they don't want to live in the slums and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? They want to go into these other communities. You know what I'm saying? So the beginnings of them speaking like that, they, when, brothers came into civil rights, man, they have formulated ideas. You know what I'm saying? That's something that's also, even for the 60s, that's not shown to us. You know what I'm saying? At least not for me. You know what I'm saying? Like when I was younger, I never knew that the Black Panthers was started by college kids. You know what I'm saying? And that these dudes was, you know, learning. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I love them, you know what I'm saying, in terms of them being the brothers, but I'm thinking, yeah, they straight up, punch Whitey in the face. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know that, they got all these other, you know, plans written down, you know what I'm saying, ways of dealing with the government, you know what I'm saying, with that don't, the gun is the mind, you know what I'm saying? It ain't no weapons, no arms involved. You understand what I'm saying? But these is dudes they have been having, these is discussions that people are having. They make it seem like they just wow reactionaries. You know what I'm saying? But all of that stuff happened, that was mapped out. The way they were systematically going to do things. You know what I'm saying? And some of those things started being mapped out since then. Like there was a guy, uh, like Thurgood Marshall. You know what I'm saying? He was educated in this legal type of strategies. The legal strategies that he used came from his college law professor at Howard University. You know what I'm saying? And the dude, he was the one who devised this plan that you could pretty much embarrass. I'm probably using the wrong word right there, but you could kind of embarrass the colored man into um, upholding his own laws. That if you went into court with the right person, you know what I'm saying, the perfect kind of uh, uh, client, you know what I'm saying, meaning uh, most of these people was handpicked because they was the perfect people. Like Brown v. Board of Education, when they desegregated the schools, these was particular children that there was no reason to deny them other than they were Black. You know what I'm saying? Like they was kids that never had behavior problems in school. They had fantastic grades. They came from, good upstanding families that had money. You understand what I'm saying? The same way with what is the Birmingham, the bus boycott. You understand what I'm saying? There was a couple of people that got arrested. There was one girl in particular that got arrested like the day before. She got arrested like a couple of days before Rosa Parks. You know what I'm saying? But she was a teenager. She had a baby already. You know what I'm saying? There was things about her where they could be like, nah, she's, you know what I'm saying? So these was all plans that they sat down and carefully formulated over the decades. You know what I'm saying? Uh, using veterans. You know what I'm saying? A lot of dudes that went in with these court cases, they was dudes that okay, because you're veterans and all that, especially at that time period. We've been in World War II, so you know what I mean? We ain't over here pressing no buttons in the background, saying we going out on the front line. So it's a little bit, it looks a little bit more funny to deny them of their rights. You know what I'm saying? But these plans, these things is a lot of these things is long-term plans that we just don't know about because we're not educated on them. You see what I'm saying? And we pretty much stopped making those plans in the 70s. You know what I'm saying? We stopped talking like that with each other. Not everybody, but I'm just saying that, when you look at that time period, it's like, okay, corporate America is starting to take back over. You know what I'm saying? They starting to get everything back a little bit. Claudette Colvin was her name. That's I didn't recall her name. That's I should. But yeah, Claudette Colvin. She had got arrested a couple days before Rosa Parks, but they knew that they couldn't use her because, you know, she didn't, you know, uh, it would have been just like right now, they're not gonna say black, but what it is through propaganda, they've associated black with certain things. Like they've associated blacks with crime, for instance. So see, if they say criminals, they don't gotta say black because the image that comes in people's minds. You understand what I'm saying? The image that comes in people's minds when you say, "Oh, there are some thugs." See, the image that comes in people's minds is of black people. So, you know, definitely was plans. But by the '70s, like I said, corporate America is taking back over. The Panthers is, they're going after them. The last of them, you know, shooting them down. Martin Luther King is gone. Malcolm X is gone. Elijah's gone. And the next people is starting to be separated from all of that. It's starting to be separated from all of that history. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's going from, people is going off to college as a solemn event. Like this is something where, look, if somebody in this neighborhood is smart enough to make it into college, all of the whole neighborhood will put the money together to send this person to college. It's going from that, by the '80s, you got Freaknik. This is what people is going to the black college to have the black college experience for. You know what I'm saying? Like things is changing. I'm not saying that this is what destroyed the community, but I'm saying this is kind of the evidence and the product of the contrast in these different times. So 793rd said Rastas as well is having a collegiate movement primarily. Kendall Rowland says we will never learn the truth of ourselves in the American public school curriculum. If we and our children are ever going to learn the knowledge of ourselves and develop our children to their fullest potential, we are going to have to look for it by. I mean, you know, uh, hopefully, some of the seeds start to be planted. You know what I'm saying right now. Um, you know, you got the new Black Knowledge channel. You know what I'm saying. Some of the people that come on Sonetta, et cetera, et cetera. Um, building on these types of things and building on these types of topics. You know what I'm saying? One of the things that's holding us back right now is, uh, religious differences. You know what I'm saying? In terms of, brothers that come together and they speaking this on intellectual matters, but, it's about, the history of the Sumerians and if these people is West African and, et cetera, et cetera. But brothers at that time, being that everybody is pretty much Christian, they not, we don't have to waste time talking about that. You know what I'm saying? We could deal, uh, with the science of application, application of this knowledge to try to make a move. You know what I'm saying? And that's another thing that happened, is over time, um, people started looking at the mistakes that brothers made in the past, and kind of using that to justify throwing, you know, like turning your back on those types of ideas and those types of movements. You know what I'm saying? Like people would look at Marvin King, be like, yeah, man, yo, you preacher, and just like, listen, they did what they had the knowledge to do at that time. You know what I'm saying? You know, uh, a lot of times we don't look at the blueprint to really say, okay, now really all we got to make is this one adjustment right here. You know what I'm saying? We kind of just, like, if Martin Luther King protested, and yeah, I don't protest. You know what I'm saying? But so that's another thing that's like another barrier, I'm saying, to people coming back together and discussing these kinds of ideas. You know what I'm saying? Like the Black Star Line. Somebody was building with me, and somebody came in the room in the live and was building on that. I never really knew what happened with the Black Star Line. Like I know what I've seen. You know what I'm saying? In a couple of little like news clips or whatever. You know what I'm saying? The footage of when Marcus Garvey was doing his thing, but I never really knew what happened to the Black Star Line. As a whole. You know what I'm saying? So what that means is, he did accomplish a lot. From what I understand, he got the ship. But it's just he never repaired it to the level where he could start doing trading with it. But for the most part, it's like a name. You know what I'm saying? Like we deal with the Pan Africanism part. You know what I'm saying? Which is slightly theological. I mean, it's factual, but it's slightly just theological. You know what I mean? A belief in Black people. But those practical conversations that they had to have in order to accomplish that stuff, we don't really look at that part. That must be in St. Louis you're talking about. 80s is when original en masse moved from central cities to outlying suburbs. And then 90s and 2000s keep pushing outward. But now they've been building nice houses in areas that's good. Um, oh yeah, man, yeah. So I was saying that must be in St. Louis because yeah, I hear um, people started moving. What if one thing? A lot of people went to jail. You know what I'm saying? And then when they came out, either they just didn't want to come back to New York, to just get arrested again. Some people, while they was locked up, their family moved, to some, suburb upstate or whatever, Long Island. So they just bounced because there's nothing here for them. You know what I'm saying? But gentrification here started in the, I would say the mid 90s. Kendall Rowland said Martin Luther King said later on that he realized that he was leading his people into a burning house. He realized too late that he couldn't change their nature. Yeah. Uh, you know, that's just one of the things that that's another level of, like I said, the real conversations that was had surrounding things. You know, like those freedom bus rides. That took a fair amount of organization. You can't just do that. Like this is something I found out like recently. I was saying the last, like it hasn't been 10 years that I found out that there was actually training. Like to before you were sent down south on these freedom rides, you know what I'm saying, and all these different marches, right? That they went somewhere like in Ohio or something. And they was all trained on, what to do, what to say if you get arrested, you know what I'm saying? And they was actually screening people for temperament. Like if you was somebody that if a white man spit on you, if you was gonna pop off, then they was like, all right, look, bro, we need your help, but we don't need you on the front line. You know what I'm saying? Because that was their particular strategy. So, you know, that's what I'm saying. A lot of these things, there was a lot of thought and went into it. It wasn't just, wild revolutionaries, reactionaries, rather, I should say. Now, Illuminati said, didn't a few people have prophecies of the colored man? What people you saying? Like before, it was a colored man? Yeah, I would say, but see, I'm gonna tell you something though. You gotta realize about that. Uh, Don Bishop said when he first noticed white dudes walking around in Harlem with boy shorts on in the '90s, and they weren't afraid. I knew it was a rap. See, one thing I remember is, a lot of the first people to gentrify, right, is people who can't make it in their community for whatever reason. Like they can't afford to buy a brownstone downtown on 68th Street or 79th Street, but they could buy one on 141st Street. And because, they're not necessarily accepted by the mainstream, because they kind of already outcasts. It's a little easier for them to go into an environment, because, they're gonna they're gonna catch hell anyway. So a lot of times, at least in modern times right now, the people that's on the pioneering front in terms of gentrification, uh, you're gonna see interracial couples, you know, uh, you know, LGBTQ community, um, you know, uh, foreigners, the type of people that uh, is easier to afford. And then once they make a foothold, right, and it's seen that okay, it's okay for them to be here now, the community starts to even gentrify on those people. They see you talking about that's when you knew gentrification was bad. When I knew gentrification was bad is when I was seeing white people saying, yo, son, there's too many white people coming around here, man, making rent get high. But I seen white people who say like, yo, man, what these white people doing around here? And to them, they feel like, yo, man, I came around here when it was hardcore, yo. Hey, yo, man, I was the one that had to walk past here, man, when the gangs was out here and all that, man. Now that I get everything all nice and acceptable, now you want to come over here and jack up the rent. See, when I started hearing colored people talking like that, that's how I was like, this thing that got out of hand. Yeah, Don Bishop, you know, the outcast can take over the lower class neighborhood. That means we're really on the bottom. Exactly. That's exactly what it means. That we don't have any power to, have any kind of self determination in our neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's what kind of schools we got, what kind of stores we got, how well the landlords keep up the properties. You know what I'm saying? We don't have enough push and pull on that. You know what I'm saying? In St. Louis, I ain't never been in the St. Louis. Uh, like I've driven through St. Louis, but I've never gotten off the highway. And I never got off the highway in St. Louis. Oh yeah, the whole Brooklyn. They starting to be even like in Brownsville, East New York now. Even East New York is getting gentrified. So yeah, that's a whole thing. But we went through enough, man. You know, really, I wanted to talk about the battle. I wanted to talk about the battle of Capitol Hill, but y'all ain't had no good conspiracies for me. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully everybody has already done it. Each one teach one and hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. You know what I'm saying? This one right here. See, we played around too much in a minute. See, y'all probably don't want to share this one out to your friends. Big man, y'all playing games, man. I'll be building. But definitely hit the like button on this one. And tomorrow, let's see. Yeah, I think we should be in here tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna read the news reports and see what's going on. Read the news reports and see what's going on with the what do they call them? See what's going on with the combatants. See what's going on with the combatants at the Battle of Capitol Hill. Catch up with y'all. By tonight you'll have some more theories, huh? But like I said, catch y'all tomorrow and we shall build. Peace.